Members, we are going to resume our business. Members, we have 3 items for which we passed temporarily prior to the lunch break. Members, if we could have your attention. We are moving to file item 161. That is Senate Bill 252. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 252 by Senator Leno and others, inoculating the pupils and making an appropriation therefore.
Mr. David Chu, you may open on the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, SB 252 will ensure that homeless youth have access to the California High School Equivalency and Proficiency exams by waiving the cost of these exams for someone who can verify his or her status as a homeless child or youth. Our Superintendent of Public Instruction, a strong supporter of this bill, has designated funds to reimburse contractors for the loss of any fees. We all know that the challenges of homelessness and the lack of mobility has led to what may be as low as 25% high school graduation rates for homeless students. High school dropouts, as we know, also are 8 times more likely to be in jail or in prison than high school graduates. As homelessness makes graduating from high school challenging, other paths to completing high school and accessing higher education are extremely important for homeless youth. This bill is a necessary, responsible investment in our most disconnected young people. It passed off the Senate floor 40-0, has no opposition, has received all aye votes in the Assembly so far. It has a broad coalition of support and a diverse group of bipartisan co-authors. With that, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 62, no 0. Measure passes. We're going to move to file item 196. File item 196. That is SB 239 for the purpose of amendments. Clerk will read with amendments.
Senate Bill 239 with amendments by Assembly Member David Chu.
Mr. Chu on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, these amendments contain chaptering out language and further narrows the bill to exempt certain agreements that a local agency cannot afford to staff year-round. Respectfully ask for an aye vote on the amendments and request that the bill go out of print and back on file.
Ms. Waldron.
We are without objection.
Thank you, Ms. Waldron. Without objection, when we take a voice vote on the amendments, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Bills out to print and back on file. We are now moving members to file item. Actually, that's going to be. All right, members, file item 202, that's SB 546. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 546 by Senator Leno, inoculating health care coverage.
Ms. Bonilla, you may open on the measure. No? Okay, we are going to pass and retain on that item. We will pass and retain on file item 202. Members, we are moving back to the concurrence file. On the concurrence file, members, these items are now eligible to be taken up. File item 35, that's AB 849. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 849 by Slamira Bonilla and Accolade Crimes.
Ms. Bonilla, you may open.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 849 is here for concurrence and Senate amendments. The amendments ensure that defendants are held liable for damage caused when a drug lab explodes, regardless of whether it's caused by a resulting fire or explosion. And we're talking about when hash oil is being cooked in people's private residences and the damage that can be done with an explosion. And the Senate amendments actually closely target the bill's provisions at great bodily injury and property damage, which can result from these honey oil explosions. The bill has had no opposition and has enjoyed bipartisan support. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bonilla. Seeing no discussion or debate on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tie the vote. Ayes 68, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 36. That's AB 1056. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1056 by Assembly Member Atkins and others and accolade to recidivism reduction and making an appropriation therefore.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to bring back AB 1056, which creates the Second Chance Program for Community Reentry. This grant program will guide the savings realized from the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act of 2014, or Proposition 47, towards funding collaborative community-based proposals that assist formerly incarcerated persons with housing, behavioral health care, drug treatment, and other services. Amendments were adopted in the Senate to clarify the composition of the program's Executive Steering Committee and to extend another innovative anti-recidivism grant program for public-private partnerships administered by the Board of State and Community Corrections. It provides us with the opportunity to help formerly incarcerated individuals successfully reenter the community and get their lives back on track. I would respectfully ask for your concurrence in Senate amendments.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tie the vote. Ayes 69, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. We're going to pass temporarily on file item 39. File item 40, that's AB 159. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 159 by Assembly Member Calderon and others and accolade to drugs and devices.
Mr. Calderon, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 159 is back on concurrence. Senate amendments clarify eligibility requirements for those patients seeking investigational drugs and treatments and include data reporting to the Department of Public Health to ensure greater safeguards for patients and physicians. AB 159 has received bipartisan support in both houses and has not received a single no vote. I respectfully ask for your aye vote in concurrence.
Thank you, Ms. Calderon. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tie the vote. Ayes 63, noes 2. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 42. That's AB 276. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 246 by the Committee on Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials and accolade to hazardous materials.
Mr. Alejo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 276 is the fourth of 4 DTSC improvement bills by the ESTM committee. This bill will align state law with federal law by giving DTSC authority to ask for financial information from parties potentially responsible for toxic waste cleanup. Amendments taken in the Senate were technical and conforming. This bill has bipartisan support in both houses, no opposition. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Alejo. Seeing no discussion on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tie the vote. Ayes 66, noes 1. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 44, that's AB 317. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 317 by Assembly Member Mainshine and accolade to veterinary medicine.
Mr. Mainshine, you may.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 317 is back in the Assembly for concurrence. I respectfully request an aye vote.
Thank you, sir. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 68, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. We're going to pass temporarily on file item 45. File item 46, AB 437. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 437 by Assemblymember Atkins and others, and relating to small businesses and making an appropriation therefore.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 437 allows small businesses to receive a grant from the state in proportion to the amount of the research and development tax credits they've earned. Amendments in the Senate specifically add various accountability measures, including, among other things, having the Franchise Tax Board certify that the taxpayer qualifies as a small business and requiring the small business to file tax returns for 2 years prior to claiming the grant. It delays the operative date of the bill until 2017. Other technical changes. It's received bipartisan support and no votes in either house of the legislature. I would ask for your aye vote in concurrence.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 69, noes 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 47, AB 515. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 515 by Assemblymember Eggman and others, and relating to food banks.
Dr. Eggman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 515 is back here on concurrence. The Senate amendments were minor and technical in allowing agriculture and manufacturers to contribute to food banks. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
See no discussion or debate on this item. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 67, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 48. That's AB 549. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 549 by Assemblymember Levine and others, and relating to state parks.
Mr. Levine, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This item on Parks Forward recommendations is back on concurrence. I ask for an aye vote.
See no discussion or debate on this item. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 69, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 49. That's AB 555. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 555 by Assemblymember Alejo and relating to civil actions.
Mr. Alejo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 555 extends and enhances the expedited jury trial program with the goal of making courtroom procedures more efficient to save time and money, both litigants and the courts, while preserving due process rights. The amendments taken in the Senate are in line with this goal, which make expedited jury trials mandatory in cases with the amount in controversy of less or equal to $25,000. The original voluntary program was enacted in 2011 to help the courts with an overloaded dockets as a result of major budget cuts to our courts. But the voluntary procedure, however, was largely unused with only a couple hundred cases across the state, despite the fact that people who utilized it were satisfied with the procedure. This new mandatory program that this bill creates will provide ample protections to the parties, help better serve justice, and save court costs. My staff and I have worked with all stakeholders to create a workable program, and it has no opposition, strong bipartisan support. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Alejo. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 71, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 50, AB 664. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 664 by Assemblymember Dodd and others, and relating to Medi-Cal.
Mr. Dodd, you may open.
Mr. Speaker and members, AB 664 is back from concurrence from the Senate. The amendments in the Senate extend the timeline of implementation and reporting to accommodate departments' current progress. Thank you. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 71, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Members, we're moving to file item 53. That's AB 704. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 704 by Assemblymember Cooley and accolade to escrow.
Mr. Cooley.
Colleagues, AB 704 relates to escrow regulation in California and the financial terms and provisions that protect consumers. The Senate amendments are strengthening the bill out of collaboration with the Department of Insurance. I request an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Cooley. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 74, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Members, I'm prepared to lift the call. Going to lift the call on Senate Bill 655. Clerk will post. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 44, noes 26. Measure passes. Back on the concurrence file. File item 54. That's AB 745. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 745 by Assemblymember Chow and accolade to mental health.
Mr. Chow, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 745 is back for concurrence. The Senate amendments are technical in nature and address a chaptering out issue with another bill. I respectfully ask your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Chow. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 72, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 56, AB 965. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 965 by Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia and others and accolade to the California-Mexico border.
Mr. Eduardo Garcia, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. 965 is back for concurrence. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 74, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Mr. Gomez, I see you have two items. May we take up file item 39, AB 88? Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 88 by Assemblymember Gomez and others and accolade to taxation to take effect immediately. Tax levy.
Mr. Gomez.
Mr. Speaker and members, AB 88 is back in the Assembly for concurrence. The Senate amendments clarify the type of efficiency programs that the bill applies to and the definition of low-income participant. They also confirm the provisions of this bill apply only prospectively and not retroactively. AB 88 has received bipartisan support in both houses. I thank you and ask for your concurrence in the Senate amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tie the vote. Ayes 74, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Moving to file item 58, that's AB 145. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 145 by Assemblymember Gomez, an act relating to private employment, declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Mr. Gomez, you may again open.
Mr. Speaker and members, today I'm presenting Assembly Bill 145 for concurrence, which will simply make technical changes to AB 1792. This bill has received bipartisan support. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 75, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Yeah. I was going to go back to Tang. That's right. I'll come back to him later. Yeah, I'll come back later. File item 60. That's AB 494. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 494 by Assemblymember Mainshine and others, an act relating to civil procedure.
Mr. Mainshine, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 494 is back on concurrence. I respectfully request an aye vote.
Thank you for your brevity, Mr. Mainshine. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 71, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 61. That's AB 599. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 599 by Assemblymember Bonilla, an act relating to clinical laboratories.
Ms. Bonilla.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Amendments are technical and clarifying. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Bonilla. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 71, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 62. AB 728. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 728 by Assemblymember Hadley, an act relating to state government.
Mr. Hadley, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 728 is back on concurrence. The Senate amendments were technical, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 73, noes 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 64. That's AB 1072. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1072 by Assemblymember Daley, an act relating to insurance.
Mr. Daley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This bill addresses police officer and firefighter benefit associations. The Senate amendments are all consensus agreements and there is no opposition. I respectfully request your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Daley. Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 71, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 65, that's AB 1081. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1081 by Assemblymember Quirk, an act relating to civil actions.
Mr. Quirk, you may open.
Request your aye vote.
Seeing no discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 72, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Members, we're taking up file item 45. That's AB 413. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 413 by Assemblymember Chavez and others, an act relating to veterans.
Mr. Chavez, you may open.
Yes, vote aye.
This is not a contest, members.
I'd like to have a long discussion on AB 413.
Clerk will open the roll. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 72, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Okay, members, we are moving to file item 52. This is AB 681. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 681 by Assemblymember Ting and accolating the State Board of Equalization.
Mr. Ting, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 681 is back for concurrence. Senate amends were technical and clarifying. Respectfully ask for aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Ting. See no discussion on the item. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 73, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Members, we're moving to consent calendar.
He's got a motion.
Does any member wish to remove an item from the consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will read the second day consent calendar.
Senate Bill 148 by Senator McGuire and others and accolating the school districts.
The clerk will open the roll on the consent calendar. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 74, noes 0. The consent calendar is adopted. The clerk will read the remaining bills on the second day consent calendar.
Senate Bill 478.
Ayes 74, no 0. Okay, members, if we could have your attention, we are moving to announcements and adjournments in memory. Members, if you could please take your seats. Members, please take your seats. The following members were granted prior permission to speak on an adjournment in memory. Members, we'd ask for your respectful attention. Mr. Cooley, you are recognized for your adjournment in memory. Members, respectful attention, please. Mr. Cooley?
We'll defer this to tomorrow.
Mr. Cooley's opting for his adjournment in memory and move that to tomorrow's session. Members, we have one remaining bill on call. Mr. Holden, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 249 WASO is at the desk. At the request of the author, I move to rescind the action whereby Senate Bill 249 was passed in the Senate on September 1st, 2015, and to return the bill to the third reading file.
Without objection, the request is granted. Okay, members, I am prepared to lift the call. One remaining bill on call. File item 174, SB 260. The clerk will post. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote.
Tally the vote. Request reconsideration, please.
Close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 23, noes 42. Measure fails. Mr. Bonta notices reconsideration on the item. Moving to announcements, members. Session schedule is as follows. Thursday, September 3rd, floor session at 10 a.m. Friday, September 4th, floor session at 9 a.m. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions shall be continued. Seeing and hearing no further business, I am ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Holden moves and Ms. Olson seconds that this House stands adjourned until Thursday, September 3rd at 10 a.m. Quorum call is lifted.